The Iron Claw bar buzzed with life that Friday night in Arizona. Engines roared outside, laughter echoed through the smoky air, and the jukebox played an old country rock tune. At a corner table sat a gang of bikers, their leader Jake Viper Dalton, a hardened 40-year-old ex-soldier with eyes that had seen too much. Behind the counter worked Emily, a 35-year-old waitress with kind eyes and a quiet grace that didn't belong in a place like this. She moved quickly from table to table, balancing trays and dodging crude jokes, her politeness never faltering. But when she accidentally spilled a full mug of beer onto Jake's black leather jacket, the entire room fell silent. Jake stood up slowly, his jaw tightening. "You got any idea what this jacket means to me?" He growled, his voice rough from whiskey and smoke. Emily apologized, her voice trembling, but Jake's pride was wounded. The other bikers watched with uneasy grins as he grabbed her wrist, his anger boiling over. In one sharp motion, he yanked at her shirt, and the sound of fabric tearing echoed through the bar. The laughter stopped. Every eye turned to her, and what they saw beneath her torn shirt froze. The rue under the torn fabric hung a worn military dog tag resting against Emily's skin. The silver glint caught the dim bar lights, and Jake froze mid-breath. The room went dead quiet. His eyes darted to the letters stamped on the tag, the insignia of the 89th Infantry Division. His own unit. "Where did you get this?" he demanded, but his voice had lost its edge. Emily's hands shook as she held the torn shirt together. "I didn't get it," she said softly. "I earned it." "Combat medic, Afghanistan." Jake blinked, disbelief spreading across his scarred face. "You served?" he whispered. She nodded once, her eyes meeting his without fear. The men who moments ago were laughing now shifted uncomfortably in their seats, realizing the weight of what had just happened. Jake's grip loosened, shame creeping up his spine. He took a step back as memories of the war flooded in, the medics who'd saved his brothers, the friends he'd lost. Emily stood tall, despite the tear in her shirt, her voice calm but steady. "You think you've seen hell?" she said quietly. "Try holding a bleeding soldier's hand till he stops breathing." The bar remained silent, and for the first time, Jake had nothing to Jake stood frozen. Guilt flooding his chest as the reality of what he'd done sank in. The crowd stayed silent, watching the man who once ruled the bar with fear now look small and shaken. Emily turned to leave, but Jake's voice stopped her. "Wait," he said, softer than anyone had ever heard from him. "I didn't know." "I'm sorry." The words sounded rough, foreign on his tongue. Emily paused, glancing back at him. Her eyes carried the weight of someone who'd seen far worse than drunken anger. "You don't have to know my story to treat me like a person," she said quietly. Jake nodded, his shame heavy. He turned toward his men. "Get everyone a drink," he ordered. "And one for her, on me." The others hesitated, then slowly raised their glasses. The tension in the room eased, but no one laughed. Emily sighed and began cleaning the spilled beer, her movements calm, controlled. Jake pulled out his old dog tag from his vest and placed it gently beside hers on the counter. "Guess we both made it back," he said. "Just took different roads." For the first time that night, Emily, the Iron Claw bar changed after that night. The bikers who once mocked and jeered began treating Emily with quiet respect. Her story had spread among them. The woman they had underestimated was a war hero, a survivor who carried more courage in her scars than any of them in their leather jackets. Jake visited often, not as the feared leader but as a man trying to make peace with his past. Every morning before the crowd came, he'd share coffee with Emily at the counter. They rarely spoke about the night it all happened, but their silence carried a kind of understanding words couldn't express. Months later, a new biker walked in, loud and cocky, throwing a disrespectful comment toward Emily. Before she could respond, Jake was already on his feet. "Watch your mouth," he said coldly. "You're talking to a veteran." The newcomer frowned until Jake pointed to the photo framed behind the bar. Emily in her uniform, smiling beside her unit, the caption beneath it reading, "Heroes come in many uniforms. Some just wear aprons now." The biker lowered his head in apology. Emily smiled faintly, and Jake raised his glass toward her. The bar had found its heart again. His lips curved into a small, forgiving smile. Shock.